Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're tackling a topic that I know many of you struggle with: finding good reference photos for your paintings. If you're tired of relying on Pinterest or random snapshots, or if you're just tired of your paintings coming out looking lackluster, this video is for you. I recently did a photo shoot with a friend of mine, and I'm so excited to share with you just how easy and honestly fun it can be to get your own references. And if getting the skills that you need to paint loose portraits is overwhelming, skills like getting good reference, I'm here to help. Just check out the link in the description for more details. All right, let's dive in. Why is it so important to create your own reference photos? Beyond improving your art, having your references that you created yourself, this frees you from a lot of restrictions around selling your art. When you paint from photos from Pinterest or you create a commission from a professional photographer's images, chances are you don't actually have the right to make money off of those images for copyright reasons. Many art competitions also require original references, so making this change to get your own reference is crucial if you're serious about your work or you want to monetize it in any way. But it's not just about the business and legal concerns. Imagine this. You want to create a portrait of your grandkids and give it to their mom for Christmas. You want it to be a surprise too, so you look through your photo library on your iPhone, or you look through mom's Facebook page to find a shot that captures the essence of the kids. You find a family favorite, a grinning photo taken at a playground. So you go to paint it, filled with visions of creating something that is filled with color and light and thoughtful brushwork. But you realize this photo doesn't really have the color or the light that you're looking for. This photo was about capturing a fun, silly moment on a memorable day. So you try to create more of that light and shadow pattern on top of this reference. But now you're trying to figure out where the shadow should go and how to simulate the light, and you realize you're in over your head. Or maybe you realize that their grinning faces look great in a photo, but somehow look out of place in the painting, and you start trying to change their facial expressions on the fly. Or you had to get so close to take the picture with your iPhone that you're now super zoomed in on their faces and you can't figure out how to add back any key areas of the composition, like their bodies or the background. And before you know it, the painting has been sitting on your easel for months, unfinished, and you begin to second guess your Christmas gift idea. Does this sound familiar? This is where having reference that is meant to be painted, reference that you took yourself, is game changing. Good reference helps you to capture the ideal mood, lighting, color, and pose to tell the exact story that you want to tell on the canvas. In my experience helping hundreds of painters to actually create the style of portraits they've dreamt of making, starting with good reference solves 80% of the problems that come up at the easel. On the other hand, poor reference can lead to frustration and a constant uphill battle in the studio. Okay, so let's say you're convinced. Better reference really does make a world of difference, but the thought of getting out a camera and setting up a model to paint from life, either of these feels overwhelming. Who will pose for me? Would it be awkward? What do I need to know about camera settings? Do I need a new camera? What should the model wear? Do I need props? What location should we use? These are all valid concerns, but I promise they're manageable. Let's break it down. To make this easier, I'm going to start off by recommending a photo shoot. For most painters, this is a much easier way to transition away from using other people's photographs, and it takes the pressure away that often comes when you're working from life. Either the pressure to get things done quickly, or the pressure to be able to get an accurate drawing without some of the tools that are really easy to use if you're working from a photo. And the truth is, planning a photo shoot, it doesn't have to be complicated. So let's start with the first and most important question: who am I going to take pictures of? To start out, you don't need to worry about finding or hiring a professional model or convincing a stranger off the street to pose for you. Instead, make it easy on yourself. Start with friends or family members. Ask if they would be interested in helping you out. No talking to strangers or negotiating modeling fees necessary. That's what I did for this photo shoot. I went out with a friend of mine, Evie, a fantastic artist and friend from East Oak Studio.
For a second. Shoes, no shoes? No shoes.
Okay. Similarly, when my student Emily was ready to stop using the Sketchy app and start getting her own reference to paint from, she asked her kids if they'd be up for posing for her. Most people, if you just ask, are happy and excited to go on this kind of adventure with you, but you won't know unless you ask. So once you do the scary thing and you just ask someone to pose for you, what about equipment? Do you need to run out and buy some fancy camera and lens? Not at all. Take these photos with Evie. I'm using the same vlogging camera that I use for filming all of my YouTube videos, and the same portrait lens too. So if you have a DSLR somewhere in your art closet just sitting around and the stock lens that came with it, you're probably already set. But you can get really great photo reference from your iPhone too. Check out this example of footage that I got from another East Oaks friend, Erica, when we were painting at the beach. So when in doubt, stick with what you've got when getting started. The only caveat that I will add is whether you're shooting with a phone or a DSLR type camera, enable the setting to shoot in RAW. This makes your file sizes on your photos much larger, but it allows you to edit your photos much more effectively using advanced tools like Photoshop or Lightroom. Essentially, shooting in RAW lets you get that expensive camera look without needing the fancy equipment. Just about any DSLR should allow you to do this, and newer smartphones will have this setting as well. Just Google the settings for your particular equipment. And finally, if you are using a DSLR and you worry that you need to take a whole class to understand how to use it, don't sweat it. I am not a professional photographer and I do not shoot in manual mode or fiddle around with any advanced settings. For these shots that I got in this photo shoot, I literally just put the camera in auto mode and I let the autofocus do its work. And I trusted that I could make any necessary adjustments on my computer after the shoot was finished. All right, now that we have the model and camera figured out, what about the other details? The good news is that planning your photo shoot does not have to be complicated. Initially, for this photo shoot, I had a ton of ideas bouncing around in my head. To be honest, I still do. I had the exterior of a church in mind. I had very specific makeup and wardrobe ideas, so I could create a very specific narrative or mood with this painting. But the truth was, all of this detail was holding me back from just starting. So instead, Evie and I stuck with what was easy. We planned on shooting at golden hour, which is generally a safe bet if you want strong color or vivid light. We took photos outside as well for this reason, and we just did it outside Evie's studio to make things really easy. Rather than trying to micromanage hair and makeup and wardrobe, I just had Evie bring a few costuming options from her own wardrobe that she thought might be a good fit. And I chose the one that I thought I would enjoy painting the most. We didn't stress over specific outfits or elaborate setups. We just decided to give it a go in a convenient location. It took a maximum of 5 minutes to iron out all of these details compared to the hours that I was taking agonizing over the logistics for the quote perfect shoot. And then we just went for it, taking no more than half an hour to get all of these photos. At first, I just let Evie do her thing, hitting poses that she instinctively thought would look good. And after a few minutes, I began to weigh in more, telling her which poses to hold or which angles I thought looked especially good. Now with Evie, this was pretty easy because as a painter herself, she has a feel for the expressions and the poses that will translate well onto canvas. But a tip that I found that's really helpful for those who haven't done this before is to actually show them the kind of paintings that have the sorts of poses or expressions that you're really drawn to. I find this is especially helpful for things like hands, but it can also be great for individuals who assume that you need to be grinning or saying cheese for every picture. But regardless of who you're working with, I found that what works best is highlighting the things that are working well during the shoot and what you want more of. It can sometimes be tempting to lighten the mood with a joke about a pose that maybe looks a bit awkward on camera. And if you're working with a friend, this can be a great way sometimes to break up the tension or awkwardness. But I've found that I always want my models to feel comfortable no matter what. So the last thing I want is for them to avoid a great pose because they worry it might look unflattering. So I don't focus on highlighting the things that aren't working, and instead, I really try to verbally emphasize the things that are working really well so I can get more of that. As far as poses go, I didn't have any specific ideas in mind. Evie suggested that we start with some simple shots of her leaning against the studio's exterior brick wall, and I liked that idea and went with it. Then over time, I realized this gave me more ideas for more poses. Things like shielding her eyes from the sunlight, or twirling around to get great movement from her skirt, or posing atop a stone wall. I had none of these ideas at the start, but was simply open to options. We didn't agonize over being exhaustive, and we didn't take a ton of time. But if you want to help prime the creative pump, so to speak, the best thing I can recommend, so that you are open to pose ideas that could work well for you, is to spend time looking at the kind of art that inspires you. So just like showing art that inspires you to your model, spending time studying the kinds of lighting, poses, and costuming that you like can really help you be prepared and ready with new ideas in the moment so that you can make the most of this photo shoot. If you want help with this, I have an entire video dedicated to creating a vision board to be able to help you to answer these kinds of questions. I'll link that above right now. Personally, I've spent a ton of time with my painting inspiration board. So once I just got over my fear and got started, the ideas started to flow. This shoot provided me with a ton of potential reference photos, and it helped me to understand what to plan for in future shoots as well. So it's not like I'm doing this one photo shoot with Evie, and just because I didn't go with my grand vision for the specific location and makeup and costuming that I had in my mind at the beginning, well, that doesn't mean I've lost that opportunity. If anything, I now have way more clarity on how to make the most of our time for that photo shoot. So I'm glad I didn't worry about getting everything perfect and instead just gave it a go and had fun. I also think I'm much more likely to just bite the bullet and schedule that next photo shoot sooner rather than later because I've had this experience with her. So after your shoot, it's time to review and select the best photos. It's easy to go ahead and filter out shots that have awkward poses or blurry focus. But to truly identify the ones that stand out, this is where that inspiration board is really going to come in clutch. If you can find photos from your photo shoot that look like they would naturally belong on your inspiration board, you're not going to need to rely on generic advice about what constitutes good composition or proper lighting. Instead, you can quickly make a snap judgment on whether certain reference images are a good fit for you based on how well they actually work for your goal style of artwork. Now, if you have a lot of reference photos that you're having to choose between, then yes, having one that has marginally stronger lighting or a slightly more flattering pose can absolutely be a tiebreaker. And I have a lot of these photos from this photo shoot as well. Photos that look nearly identical and I just need to choose the better one. But if you're dealing with hundreds of photos from a photo shoot, it can often be more helpful to start with a clear vision for the end in mind, rather than going off of generic advice about what constitutes a good painting composition. So after I went through this step, I cut down a collection of 600 plus photos from this 30-minute shoot all the way to about 80. From here, all I need to do is to choose the ones that I'm most excited about, make subtle adjustments in Lightroom, and I'm gonna have a reference that I'm ready to dive into. And it's great knowing that anything I create from these images is truly my own, something that's coming straight from my creative voice. Whether we're talking about photo shoots, photo editing, or translating your reference onto canvas, I wanna know what questions you have coming out of this video. I'm excited to dive in and begin painting these images. So let me know in the comments what questions you would like me to address in upcoming videos where I continue this project, either with things like photo editing or taking the actual photo reference and bringing it to life on canvas. And remember, if you're serious about mastering painterly realism when it comes to portraits, I'm here to help. Check out the link in the description to find out more about working directly with me to reach your painting goals. I really look forward to reading your questions and chatting with you about what you want to accomplish with your artwork. Until then, happy painting.